What's going on, everybody? Paul Leston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green, here with you on the Man Child Show with Boy Green Digital. Of course, our presenting sponsors right above me. Northeast Roofing Professionals, baby. They sponsor our entire channel. Big salute to them. This episode, where we're going to go inside the New York Jets, is brought to you by our friends over at Sharky's in Liverpool, baby. Outdoor locations, indoor locations, they have you covered. They are the absolute party headquarters. For more information, sharkysbanquets.com. Sharky's in Liverpool, making parties historic every single year. We'll hear more about them in just a little bit. Speaking of parties, it's always a party when it's me and my buddy Jake Asman, ESPN Radio, The Jake Asman Show, and the point guard for the Jets Collective podcast with ESPN's Rich Samiti and radio personality Brandon Tierney. Let's bring him in. Jake friggin' Asman here on the show. What's up, Jake?
Boy Green, what is going on, man? Thanks for having me. And I do miss the man child, though. I miss Jim.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing him every week.
Yeah, me too. So we'll have to somehow try to cobble together and talk some New York Jets. We'll sort of figure it out here on the program. They always give us plenty of content, which blessed be he. I'll start in a weird place. I didn't plan on starting here. But, when is enough enough? Robert Saleh now signs Michael Carter. It feels like at first it was like, oh, that's sort of funny. And then now it's like 12 or 13 guys. Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers coaches turn players. Tanzel Smart's on the staff now. I mean, good Lord have mercy. I mean, this is going to be like the Hendon Hooker. This is like going to be the greatest Jets-Titans revenge game of all time, Jake.
Did they sign Hendon Hooker? Did I miss that?
Yeah, that happened last night.
I didn't even see that. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's the first time I'm learning this. That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, look, I guess the thought process is, hey, a lot of the guys they signed were defensive players, and Saleh's a really good defensive coach. He had a good defense with the Jets, so it's like, why not get the band back together if you think these players are still good? He's going to be calling the defense, as we know. In Tennessee, he said that was a regret during his time with the Jets. He didn't call the defense as much as he should have. So I guess I kind of see it, but it does feel like there's like an incredible amount of players that were Jets that are now Titans, because like every coach, except I guess Aaron Glenn in year one, likes to take players that they already know. Rex Ryan famously did this with the Jets with Bart Scott and Jim Leonard. But man, they have a lot of former Jets in Tennessee. I think it really comes down to, can Cam Ward play? Can Brian Dable coach him up? If Cam Ward's solid, Saleh will fix that defense, and Tennessee could be a pretty good team. If Cam Ward's not any good, we know Saleh doesn't have a clue how to fix the offense, and thus he will fail the same way it didn't work out with him with the Jets.
Jake, if you ever pick up a seashell on the beach, you put it up, they say you can hear the ocean. If the Titans have success and you sort of squint your eyes when you're watching them on TV and you put it up to your ear, are you going to vicariously live through seeing some Tony Adams action with Tennessee, or John Franklin Myers getting a sack, or Jermaine Johnson doing the sack celebration and dance? Are you going to feel anything whatsoever in your body? Is there going to be some feeling of like, hey, those are all former Jets and solid success? Are you going to have any inkling of like, oh, that's pretty cool, or F them, they're no longer Jets anymore?
I think I'm more neutral than like F them, but I'm also not going to be like, this is awesome. Like, I was genuinely happy for Sam Darnold to win the Super Bowl. It was excited to see him do well.
Yeah.
But if Robert Saleh wins the Super Bowl as a head coach, I wouldn't feel great about it. Like, I wouldn't feel great if like the Titans even are like really good. I'd be really jealous and pissed that it's just like, of course it doesn't work with the Jets. So I don't know. I mean, maybe my answer will change, based on how the Jets are doing at that point. Like, I remember in 2009, the year after the Jets had Brett Favre and they were 8-3, and then he got hurt and, the season fell apart. He goes to Minnesota, has one of the best years of his career. He's in the MVP conversation, but I don't think it stung because the Jets were good in 2009. Like, they had the run to the championship game. So I didn't have that bitterness of, it didn't work with Brett, and now, of course, he goes elsewhere. Like, a lot of people didn't like Aaron Rodgers because he leaves, and, of course, he goes to Pittsburgh and wins 10 games, wins the division, goes to the playoffs. I didn't get that sense back in 2009 when I was a lot younger. So I'd be interested to see how I'd feel about Saleh having success if that happens in 2026 now.
And people don't talk about this, but and I didn't even think about this till just now. I'm sure I thought about it in the time. There's a weird, bizarro world where Brett Favre in the Vikings faces the Jets in the Super Bowl. If he doesn't throw that stupid pass against New Orleans Saints across his body, vintage Brett Favre, that's sort of what you live and die by. Well, we'd have Brett Favre versus rookie quarterback Mark Sanchez, maybe? I mean, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the Jets would have had to, of course, it defeated Peyton Manning in that championship game that they had the early lead and just they weren't as good as that Colts team. But crazy. Imagine Sanchez rookie year against
Oh my
Brett Favre in the Super Bowl. What could have been? I mean, the Jets the following year, if you think about it, if they had beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers in the championship game, they would have played Aaron Rodgers in that Super Bowl.
That look at all these connective things. See, sometimes it's fun diving in the nostalgia train and looking back here. Now, throughout these interviews, both today, Jake, and moving forward, I'll try to weave in some Jets collective. It's not going to be very difficult because you guys are giving great content for this to be able to do so here. But on your latest episode 2, Jets Collective, again, make sure you guys go check it out here on YouTube. You asked Rich like some of his big takeaways, Rich Cimini of ESPN, from the annual league meetings out there in Arizona. And one of the things he said is the Jets are really high, quote unquote, on Adonai Mitchell. And, you know, I like Adonai Mitchell. If he's the wide receiver 3, I'm feeling okay. But these people that are saying wide receiver 2, I just, that gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. I hope that he ends up being really good. But, man, it's a very limited sample size, and I get it. The Jets' quarterbacking play sucked last year, and Adonai got thrown in the middle of the year. But I'm a little capped on what I think Adonai Mitchell is going to be in 2026. What say you?
I mean, he had 24 catches in 8 games with the Jets last year. I don't think we could just pencil him in as the number 2. I do think they like him. That's the sense I got even just with talking with AD Mitchell Super Bowl week. I had him on my show and just hearing what he was saying about being a Jet and what the coaches had told him. So I do think there's some truth to what Rich is reporting there. I buy that. I just don't think the Jets are dumb enough to go into the year being like, we're fine. We're just going to maybe take a chance on someone on day 2 or day 3 of the draft. Like, no, I think they're going to look at their room and realize they need to either make a trade, maybe they sign someone after the draft, or they're going to use the 16th overall pick on a wide receiver or just maybe a playmaker in general if you want to have the Kenyon Sadiq conversation, depending on what the draft board looks like. So I like AD Mitchell, but he's not a number 2 wide receiver on the Jets. That can't be their plan going into the year.
So is this just the worst smokescreen of all time? Like, I get it. If you're Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn, you want to grab a megaphone and go, we need a wide receiver really bad. Like, I get you don't want to do that, but to say, we're fine. Like, who believes that? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people believe it. I think it's one of those, you just say we like the room because you don't want to disparage your room. But okay. I think it's a talking point because a year ago, they said they liked their room, and then they did nothing to actually address the room besides Alan Lazard on a pay cut, Tyler Johnson, Josh Reynolds was like the 1-year deal they signed. They're the only player 30 or above they signed. Like, it wasn't good enough. We all in real time questioned it. It was said that they're a Garrett Wilson injury away from having what? And that happened, and they had nothing. And if it wasn't for Muji kind of remaking the room on the fly with some of the trades to get Mechie and AD Mitchell, it would have been even worse over the course of a full year. So, yeah, I mean, look, they need to add playmakers, wide receiver, and I do think another tight end could be added via the draft as well.
Yeah, and here was like another Darren Muji quote. So he gets asked about, and shout out to Antoine Staley of the New York Daily News. He says, hey, okay, you guys got Geno Smith. That's cool. But what about the backup quarterback situation? And Muji seemed very forthcoming. Yeah, we could basically totally add a guy. I'm paraphrasing before the draft. So that one he's open about, but wide receiver he's not. So that sort of threw me off. And Jake, I've heard you on the award-winning Jake Asman show, of course. And you said that, you could totally see them waiting at quarterback for the veteran, wait till after the draft. See what happens, because if you draft Ty Simpson, for instance, you probably have a much different picture of whatever that quarterback room is going to look like versus, oh, wow, we went through the draft and we don't have a Ty Simpson. We have some random day 3 pick. So what do you make of Muji's comments that, oh, yeah, I could see us adding a quarterback before, because those names are flying off the board pretty quick. And again, the names aren't that appealing as it is.
Well, what is the rush to sign a backup, I guess, at this point is what I think their thought process is, right? They could take Ty Simpson. We can debate if they're going to do it at 16. I have some doubts on that, especially after, Aaron Glenn said Geno Smith's going to lead them to the promised land. I doubt you take a quarterback at 16, but at 33, if he's there, I think that's possible. So I look at it like this. Which teams actually still need a backup? I think it might just be the Rams, and it sounds like Jimmy G is going to end up going back there, especially after Kirk Cousins, who we know was not a target for the Jets in any capacity, signed earlier with the Raiders to be the bridge with Mendoza coming in there. So, like, to me, what's the rush? If they take Simpson, you're not going to spend big money on bringing Tyrod back or Cooper Rush. You have Bailey Zappi. I guess technically you still have Brady Cook. Geno's the veteran, so you'll have Geno, Ty Simpson, and Zappi. Or you could have, if you don't draft Simpson, it's Geno, Bailey Zappi, and then Drew Aller, or insert whatever day 3 quarterback selection they go with. So I think that, to me, is the thought process. There's a chance they could take Simpson, so why spend big money on Cooper Rush or Tyrod when there's no competition for those guys? They'll be there after the draft.
Which is totally true. Again, we're speaking with Jake Asman, baby, ESPN New York. You see it there on the mic, the Jake Asman Show behind him. And then the brand new Jets podcast, the Jets Collective. It can be found wherever you get your podcast. And, of course, the primary is on YouTube there. Just simply search out Jets Collective there on the podcast coming in. Let's get to some other topics here of note here, Jake Asman, with the New York Jets. And a nugget that intrigued me that Rich Cimini mentioned on the show, and as a matter of fact, I believe this will be my Boy Green Daily topic tomorrow morning, is don't rule out Sonny Styles. That caught my attention when Rich Cimini, my ears percolated. Huh? What did you just say? So perhaps something there, the rumblings about Kenyon Sadiq. That was a juicy one from episode 1 from Rich Cimini. Another juicy one in episode 2 was don't rule out Sonny Styles. What do you make of that comment, Jake Asman?
I'm glad they're not ruling him out. He's an awesome football player, right? I mean, they took him at 2. I don't think it's crazy. I think Reese is going to be the pick. I know Rich Cimini said on our show last night he agrees with that. But, I mean, Sonny Styles is awesome. Like, if you just want a guy who is going to be good, there's an argument to be made, like, there's no way he's not going to be good. Now, I say that, and Watch will probably stink if the Jets take him, but like he's a really elite prospect. He just doesn't play a premium position. So you have that debate, with running backs oftentimes, safeties as well. But what about an inside linebacker? Can you justify that at 2? I like him a lot. I'd love him even more if they could get him in a trade back, get extra picks and still take him. That to me would be a home run.
Jake, okay, so this one I'm going to give you this question. And then we're going to take a break, and I'll let you marinate for a second on this. My question is this. Have you had a Jets take at the beginning of this offseason, so all the way dating back to January, that based on any information you've received over the last 3 months, your opinion has changed? Again, so you had a Jets take, so season's over, and you have to have takes every day, for God's sakes. You're on ESPN New York, Jake. I mean, you're all over the place, for Pete's sake. So I'm sure you've had a lot of takes, but has there been a take that's evolved based on new information that's been presented over the last 3 months? Let that marinate, Jake Asman. Put that on a nice simmer on the back burner for a moment, and we'll hear from our friends over at Sharky's in Liverpool, baby, the party headquarters.
If you plan on throwing a party, whether it's a wedding, clam bake, birthday party, graduation party, a party, company picnic, oh, and did I mention clam bake? Sharky's is your party headquarters with 3 indoor options and a plethora of outdoor options as well. All in a park-like setting with a big stage and over 7,000 square feet of covered pavilion. So rain or shine, we've got you covered. Book your next party now. Go to Sharky'sBanquets.com. Sharky's in Liverpool, making parties historic every single year.
They sure are. For more information, Sharky'sBanquets.com. Jake, all right, you had a little bit of a marination session there, a meditation perhaps, as I keep just bringing up M-letter first words. So with that being said, Jake, after all that marination, is there a take that jumps to mind for this question?
I think Muji's running the show. I do. I think Muji's running the show. I think it's it went from he was the sidekick and Glenn and having say to Muji having a lot more influence in the personnel than any of us, I think, realized. I think he's in control here. I think Glenn is obviously working in a tandem with him. And I think Muji's just saying, we're signing players that you happen to know and you're going to like it. Obviously, Glenn's involved. But I just get the sense of just talking with more people, like, Darren Muji is truly like the guy now, and to be determined if Aaron Glenn will be here based on what happens this season, if they win enough games or not.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Jake?
I think it's a good thing because I don't think Darren Muji's done a bad job. There's things I could be critical of, and we certainly all can. No one's perfect, but I think there's been enough good to be encouraged. I won't go as far as what Brandon Tierney said on our Jets Collective last night that, like, I don't know about Glenn, but, like, we got the guy. Like, I don't know about that because we did this with Joe Douglas. He made a lot of great trades early on and accumulated picks. You get credit for that. He did make really good deals. You accumulate the picks. But Joe Douglas took Zach Wilson, and that doomed him, and Mekhi Becton. And ultimately, he got the chance to hire his coach. He hired Saleh. That didn't work. We'll see what happens with Muji. No one's going to judge him on Geno Smith not being any good or even really Justin Fields. I think that's more put on Glenn for his boisterous comments than Muji. But the big swings start now. If they take Ty, that certainly changes the timeline. If they take Ty Simpson in round 1, but how they do with this draft, I think is going to be telling, because if they hit on this draft class, that'd be 2 decent drafts, let's say, in a row. It feels like with 3 ones in 2027, there's that real path for Darren to be here, and we'll see what the record is for the Jets if Glenn's here.
Yeah, I'm with you on Mooj. Again, I'm excited. So I'm sympathetic to the passion and energy of one Brandon Tierney, BT unleashed. He was unleashed on Jets Collective. That certainly was there. But again, figure out the quarterback, and then Moochie Cook, Moochie statues, all that jazz. Certainly that comes into the equation. Let's work back to that Geno Smith, promised land. I know you got the March for Arch t-shirts on the Jake Asman shop. Getting any Geno Promise Land Smith t-shirts there on the shop coming up?
It's funny you mentioned that. I was thinking we got to do something funny with that. Maybe like Geno Smith is like a pharaoh, like leading the Jets to greatness. Maybe he's like Moses parting the Red Seas or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know, but I hope Aaron Glenn is right. I don't know why he has to go to that extreme, because it just puts a target on the Jets. It makes them the butt of every joke again. People make the joke, the promised land, what, the #1 pick? And it's just like, you could talk up your guy without going that far. I had issues a year ago when they said Fields had never been coached properly. It's like, dude, Mike Tomlin is going to the Hall of Fame. He benched him at 4-2 for a reason. You know more than Mike Tomlin, and just everything else that Glenn has said about it's coaching, man. It's just, he said he wanted the team to move in silence at the owners' meetings last year. And every time he speaks, he creates a headline for unnecessary things. And this is just the latest example after you had Napgate at the Combine, which, by the way, I defended him on. The Combine, watching us run straight, is pretty
That surprised me, Jake. I'm not going to lie. We've gotten to know each other over the years. We've met a few times. As soon as that Nap thing happened, I'm like, let me tune into the Jake Asman show. I know what Jake's going to say. And you surprised me.
But I'm not even killing him for that. But that was a story. It was a big deal. It was everywhere. Right. And the bigger thing is play calling's my superpower. And it makes you look stupid when you say that, when the Jets didn't get a pick last year. And at any point you could have stepped in and took over the defense to help the team, and you didn't do it. So no one wants to hear that. And again, nothing he says in the grand scheme probably matters, because he's just got to win games. That's what he's going to be judged on. But I don't get this great feeling he's learned a lot, or things are going to be so much better this year. I do think they've upgraded from a coaching staff standpoint, but that's not saying much. They had guys that shouldn't have been hired in important positions last year. I think Frank Reich's better than Tanner Engstrand. I think that Glenn is a better DC than Steve Wilkes as the play caller, but there's just a lot of questions. And I don't like being negative, but I'm also not going to be blindly delusional to a franchise that has given us nothing to really latch onto. They won 3 games last year, and I'm not going to sit here and expect them to be this great team all of a sudden with Geno Smith coming off this season he just had with the Raiders, thinking that he's going to all of a sudden at age 36 lead the Jets to the promised land. Come on, man.
Yeah. Come on, man. ESPN, great trademark. I'll just say this on the AG thing. I think there's 2 things here. First off, it seems like I wasn't there in person, but it seems like there was a much more self-reflective AG. He did seem looser. There at the presser, he was cracking jokes. He seemed to take accountability for things, like all the hubris you were talking about with Justin Fields last year. This year, he said, "Put it on me. It was my fault, and it didn't work out." And I said, "Oh, okay, there you go." And so it seemed, outside of the promised land quote, the other 37 minutes seemed pretty good to me. Now, that doesn't make any difference, because whether it was the opposite, 36 minutes of crap and 1 minute of a great headline, or what actually happened, it's all about wins and losses, baby. If we go to the season and the Jets are friggin' 9-8, woohoo, AG's awesome. But if it goes the other way, then he sucks and it's nothing. So I guess, you could sort of say those 2 things in the same breath.
Yeah, look, I think there's a way to say you love your guy, you believe in your guy, without creating a headline. And I think that's what he should have done. And, Jake, it's a figure of speech. He's still learning. He's in his 2nd year. We should be past this. Again, did you hear John Harbaugh saying that about Jackson Dart? And again, if he did say it, no one would laugh. But you signed Geno Smith. He's 36 years old. He's thrown 32 picks the last 2 years, which has led the NFL. We could just be honest and say, hey, last year's not an accurate reflection on the type of quarterback Geno is. We believe in him. We think he's going to be a really good quarterback for us, and I can't wait to see our offense with him this year. If you say that, is anyone talking about this being a big headline?
Definitely not, I would say, in terms of that conversation. And overall, with the entire thing here, with AG, we talked about it. Ultimately, it's going to come. It's going to come down to wins. And I would say this, Jake. Okay, I'll just say Promised Land. What does that mean to you?
I mean, I can make the joke that all the Jet trolls are making, and the number one
Yeah.
pick in the draft, Arch Manning. Here we come. To me, the promised land would be ending the playoff drought, though. I forget the Super Bowl. They have the longest playoff drought in sports. The Buffalo Sabres are about to make the playoffs in the NHL. The Jets are all by themselves now with the longest playoff drought in sports. That to me would be the promised land, ending the longest playoff drought in sports.
Right. And I agree that is like the Jets version of Promised Land. I would say in general, if I'm in the streets, ask any fan, what does Promised Land mean? They would all say Super Bowl championship, the end of the road. So like, again, AG said it and he has to live and die by his words. Those are the he ends up saying. Something else that was very intriguing to me on the Jets Collective podcast is Rich Cimini opened the door for the Jets. He said he could see them absolutely was his word, that they could take a wide receiver or pass catcher with one of their first 4 picks. He actually anticipates it. But he said, hey, maybe even 2 of 4. And you guys were talking about Kenyon Sadiq and a wide receiver maybe, or maybe there's different combinations. Maybe it's 2 receivers. Who knows what's going to be available on the board. Would you be opposed to that at all, the Jets investing that level of premium asset back into the offense?
I'm not against that. I think it'd be interesting if they did double receiver. That would surprise me. But Sadiq and a receiver, let's score points. I'm in. They need playmakers, Boy Green. So get me weapons. If they don't make a trade for Brian Thomas Jr., someone we're not thinking of, Troy Franklin on the Broncos in a crowded wide receiver room there, insert whoever, they should be thinking about doubling up at receiver. Because again, we could play the game with Geno Smith. Oh, what if he's great? Okay, I'll worry about that if it happens. But the only chance of maximizing whatever he has left, and in all likelihood, the swing they take at quarterback in 2027 is to stack the offense with playmakers. They have the O-line basically in place going forward. I feel really good about the tackles and Tippmann, and we'll see what happens this season with Parham, or maybe they add someone in the draft. But you feel good about 3 fits of your O-line, which is all you need if the other 2 guys are just average starters. Like, you have Garrett, you got Brees for at least another year. You're not Mason Taylor. I think is going to be a good player. Just add some more playmakers, and you actually have like the makings of an offense that shouldn't be inept.
Brian Thomas Jr., that's another one. A few more here before we finish up here, Jake. That was interesting to me from Rich. He said what he had heard from his Jaguar sources is BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., was a little bit of alligator arms, a little nervous Purvis going over the middle. And I hear that, I'm like, whoa, I hadn't heard that before. But obviously something had to have happened where he was this Pro Bowl player as a rookie. I know coaching staff changes, and then he's like not the same guy. And now we're hearing some of this from Rich. I'm with you, Jake. I would give up the 44th overall pick in a heartbeat for Brian Thomas Jr. I think that's worth it. And then you have wide receiver, in theory, sort of checked off and you're doing other things. You could add more receivers, I guess, at a different point. But you get that, and then you still have 33, 16, and 2 to go do something else with. But does some of the Rich Cimini whispers he shared on the show give you any more level of pause about maybe making a move here for BTJ?
So I would still trade 44. I know Rich said he wouldn't personally, but look at the Jets' history at drafting receivers on day 2 and day 3. I know that's not how you're supposed to run your team, but I'm a fan, so I could run my team how a fan thinks for certain things. Like, let me remind every Jet fan of Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, Stephen Hill. There's just so many.
Devin Smith.
The great Devin Smith. Like, it's just, I'm sick of it, man. So, look, I know Brian Thomas Jr. is not perfect. You don't get traded after the year he had in year 1 by year 3, unless there's something up. Maybe he just needs to change the scenery. He's really good. He's better than anything they could probably find at 44, knowing the Jets luck. So if you trade for him, I suggested this also on the collective last night. If you trade for Brian Thomas using pick 44, if I'm Darren Muji and I like making deals, take pick 33, trade out. That pick is always tradable, and recoup what you just gave up. And then all of a sudden, you're still getting good players. You still probably end up with the same amount of picks, even after trading for Brian Thomas.
That's for damn sure. Anything before we get to a plug or two here, Jake? Jets draft. Okay, what's the thing that that you think is the most realistic thing that could be a surprise, right? Like, Fernando coming to us at 2, despite what Nick Ferria, our mutual friend, has told both of us. I don't think that one's going to happen anymore. So is there a realistic surprise, if that makes any sense, that you think could happen somewhere here in those first 44 picks? That would be good news for Jet fans.
I mean, someone gets arrested And
No, there you go. Sweet.
they start falling down draft boards. The Laramie Tunsil situation happens, and the Jets can take advantage of something like that at pick 16. Caleb Downs falls all the way to 16 or something like that.
Lance Zierlein's mock had that, so who knows? I guess.
Yeah, you don't typically get anything this late in the process. I think it's all just smokescreen at this point. But look, we talk about the Jets and the draft every day, so I welcome all the funny or intriguing rumors for us to opine on our shows.
By the way, smooth word action there, Jake, that you bring up old Laramie Tunsil on the bong and then smokescreen, working those things up very close. Well done, Jake Asman. Well done.
Funny, I work with Mike Tannenbaum, who was the GM of the Dolphins when that happened, and he drafted Tunsil. So we've spoken about that incident on the air before.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that story from Mike. What did he say about the craziness of all that?
It's just like they couldn't believe it was happening. They checked in. They did their homework. They're like, we think he's a high character guy. They went back and checked their notes. Like, they just were not prepared for him to actually be there whenever they ended up. I think it was pick 12, if I remember. I don't remember the exact slot. But, I mean, they drafted a all-pro left tackle when he was supposed to go in the top 5 of the draft.
Hey, by the way, are you a Draft Day fan, the Kevin Costner movie?
So I've seen the movie. It's like fun to watch, to make fun of. It is just a ridiculous sports movie, but I got a kick out of it. Jennifer Gardner is quite the assistant general manager, does a tremendous job.
Yeah, 13th overall pick. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check before I jumped in there on that. That for Tunsil. Oh, I watch that movie every Thursday of the draft, and again, that's what happens with Bo Callahan. He was supposed to go number 1. He doesn't go number 1. Everyone starts questioning themselves. Whoa, this guy's not supposed to be here. What does that mean? They're all making calls and double checking their sources. So that for Laramie Tunsil. Jake, we're going to see each other in person in Pittsburgh, baby. And as we're doing this show right now, we are 3 weeks out from the NFL draft, so I can't wait to see you in person, Jake. And McFadden's, can you give us some plugs of all the wonderful draft party you'll be hosting, and Jet fans can all sort of come together here centrally with you here, Jake Asman, live in Pittsburgh?
It's going down, baby. Boy Green's going to be there. Free event. McFadden's in Pittsburgh. Just show up. All you have to do is RSVP. I have the link. I can send it to Boy Green. That way we can get you on a list, because we're going to do a raffle for anyone who is in attendance, give away some awesome Jets and NFL draft related prizes. But I'll be doing my live show from McFadden's during the day, doing a meet and greet with everyone there. It's located right near where the actual draft is. I think a lot of people don't realize it's free to get a ticket to the draft through the NFL. Yes. Our party's free. It's going to basically be the hub for Jet fans that day and throughout the weekend. So I'm excited, man. We'll get you on the show, Boy Green, in person from McFadden's, and we'll be hanging out with Jet fans leading up to the picks at 2 and 16. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, great. All right, so we'll have a couple of Jake Asman shows, I imagine, in between some of the draft days, day 1, day 2, all that sort of stuff, Jake?
100%. We'll be live during the day, and I'm going to go live right after the Jets make their picks at 2 and 16 to react to everything.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Jake, as always, again, we miss Manchild here. It certainly wasn't the same without the Giants representation on this Jets Weekly interview, that's for sure. But, Jake, this was a lot of fun, man. Thanks, brother.
BG, you're the man. Thanks for having me.